Yeah, look, I'm like, who this? Why y'all tripping off who this? Why y'all looking so clueless?
Good morning guys, welcome back. So today we're doing assembly on the motor. We've had a bit of issue though with the pistons rings being gapped too large straight out of the box. So I'm meant to be a file to fit, and they've given me standard size rings, which then come up at like 34 thou. When the piston rings on my forged pistons, oversized pistons, are meant to be gapped to 24. I've had Craig looking everywhere frantically, Craig from Long Boost looking everywhere frantically for some new rings for me, but there's just none in Australia. And then I rang Atomic because obviously that's where the problem came from. So I unpacked the wrong rings in my kit. So they've been onto it. They emailed Hastings to see if these are within spec. And I've just heard back from Hastings USA now, and they've said that the rings are within acceptable limits. So we did do a test this morning to see if it would pull oil back down the bore instead of letting it through, and it did pull a fair bit of oil through the bore. So that's a positive sign. It means that hopefully the car's not going to use a shitload of oil. But it's a super positive day, so I can get into assembling these pistons and getting the rotating assembly done. So it's just, you know, brightened everything up for me. I was so stressed the last couple of days trying to figure out these rings. And because Atomic has told me now it's 2-month wait on these piston rings. So lucky I can use the ones that they sent. All right guys, let's get into it. All right, so after test fitting a piston with some oil in the bore, you can see that it has scraped the oil back down because most of the oil was up around the top. Yeah, most of the oil was up high in the piston and it scraped it down lower with those rings. So we'll just get rid of any leftover metal filings, any grease or oil that the machine shop put on these to stop them from rusting while we're waiting for assembly. So I'm going to give this a clean down and flip it over, give it on the clean on the other side as well. All the oil galleries, they blow out as well. Gonna give the cranker a clean down with some carby cleaner just to get off any leftover metal shavings or anything like that. It should be pretty clean because they just lenished. So with the bore, with the oil control ring on the piston, and seeing that it's scraped the oil down as well, it means that we're going to get a pretty good seal. Even though these rings aren't going to be gapped to spec, we should still get a enough oil pulled back down so we're not getting blow by or a lot of blow by. That's the biggest thing we're worried about, that it would just chew through the oil. All right, so I've got some oil here, some 30 weight oil that I'm going to be using to assemble and just lubricate the joins, the small end of the piston and the gudgeon pin. So we've got to make sure that the arrow goes to the front of the motor, and on the rod, got to make sure that the bearing notches there go to the front as well. So they will go on like that. Each rod will be the same, or the atomic to the back. So just gonna put a bit of oil in here. And a bit on the gudgeon pin too. Get the gudgeon pin in there. What I might actually do is put the rings on, because I just don't want to have to be fiddling around with the con rod while I'm trying to put the rings on at the same time. So I don't want to risk dropping any of these. As soon as you drop them, they're done. So I'll go and assemble the rings now. All right, so I got my rings here, so I'm going to start from the bottom and work my way up. So with the oil control ring, we have 2 rings, and then the wafer ring goes in between these 2, like that. So we'll put a bit of oil on these. The oil is just going to help hold everything together. So we've got our first ring on there. That's like your lower rail ring, they call it. And then we'll add in our wafer ring. All right, so that's the oil control ring in. It's 3 parts in 1 ring. And we'll go put the second and top ring on. So the second ring is actually quite a lot thicker. I think it's made out of an iron, and it's just a lot harder to get it into position. And obviously I don't want to break them. I'm going to keep saying that because it makes me so nervous. Alright, so the second ring is on now, which is that one there. And then we do the top ring. And the top rings have got like a chamfered edge, or like almost like a scraping edge that picks up the oil again. So you can sort of see that edge, whereas the second rings don't have that edge. Alright, so that's the top ring on. So all the rings are on. I haven't set them to their correct position at the moment, but they are all in place and on the piston. Now we're going to go install the con rod onto the piston, making sure the arrow on the piston top is facing the front of the motor. We've already oiled up our gudgeon pin. So it is a floating style gudgeon. Now the hardest bit about all of it is putting these locking rings into the piston. They're super tight. Alright guys, so I just found, obviously this is my first time doing all this sort of thing, but I just found a way easier way to get the locking rings into the gudgeon pin. So they have this little, you can see it, they have this little groove out there, and what you can do is if you can get the ring in on this side, then you put the screwdriver down in there and just give it a little bit of pressure, it just pops in. That's so much easier than the way I've just been doing it, but that's what you get when you don't do this all the time, is, you know, you don't know all these things. I was wondering why that was there. There's got to be a reason. Obviously I thought it was to get the ring back out, but I think it actually serves the purpose of popping them in too. So I'm just going to keep doing it that way. I'm nearly done. I've got one more to do after this one, so see how we go. I've also gone and I'm assembling the piston and rod first and then putting the rings on after, just because I didn't want to put any pressure on the table with the rings on the piston in case I cracked the ring, because it's a 2-month wait for rings now.
Oh, you ain't know what's up. Where you been? Only need one shot. You can't win. Black ball, man. Pull up to your showing ball, man.
Hey guys, so I just got home. We ran into some issues this afternoon with the one of the oil scraper rings. We actually bent it by accident, so I spent half the afternoon running around looking for a spare oil scraper ring, and that was just, there's none in Australia at the moment. Seems to be the same case with everything due to COVID. So then I realized that I had one of my original pistons still there that I pulled out of the car, and the oil scraper rings are almost identical. They're probably just obviously a bit worn. So we chucked one of them on, tried it in the bore. It seemed to hold tension really well against the wall of the bore. So we're just going to run with that. It's only one out of the whole lot. We end up finishing off the rotating assembly tonight. So I think it's currently 7 o'clock. I just got home. So finish that off. Tomorrow morning I'll go up and torque spec everything on that side of things, and then keep moving forward from there. Hastings Rings got back to me from America. They said that obviously what I was doing, even though I was doing it anyway, was within their limitations, which makes me feel a lot better. So yeah, it's been a productive day. I got a lot more done than I thought, even though I ran into those issues. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with how it went. Anyway guys, thank you for tuning in. Hopefully I can pump out a few videos this week. I've been a little bit slack the last week and a half, just been stressed with this build, but now we're finally underway. So make sure you like, comment and subscribe. That'd be awesome. And I'll see you in the next one. Thanks guys, bye.
I feel like I'll probably take 2 of them. Somebody might